Hello there, this is Richard with Rich Made Knives and got a couple of new acquisitions to show off today. These are Medford knife and tool knives, and we've got two of them here, and we'll go through each one. We'll start off with this one first. This is called the Marauder model. I picked this up from Greg Medford at the Blade Show 2015. And this is a very large knife, very thick, as you can see here from the size of the titanium slabs and the size of the blade. Very thick, heavy knife. This is a black finish. It's a PVD coating, black PVD coating. It's kind of a semi-matte, a little bit on the shiny, but more of a matte finish on there. It's got a beautiful edge. It's a Tonto blade shape with a filler groove here, sometimes called a blood groove, on both sides. It is a tumbled, dark gray tumbled titanium on the handles. Stonewash silver finish on the pocket clip. The same black PVD coating on the breaker. Glass breaker on the back. It's got a satin finish on the flats on the titanium all the way around. And it has an etched here. This is called the Bomber logo. That is engraved into the titanium there. And it's got these finger grooves that are milled out in a natural silver brushed finish. That looks nice and goes along with gives a nice contrast to the darker tumble finish on the slabs. This is D2 steel, the tool steel. It's got a really nice near mirror polish edge. Super sharp. Bought this brand new from Greg at the Blade Show in 2015, and I've carried it about 5 or 6 times. Nice, opens nice and smooth. You can one-hand it, as you're seeing me do here. I put 2 fingers, one on each side. Put your hand on the edge here like this, push up and continue it with your thumb. Then just push this over, use your finger, swing the blade shut. So that is the Marauder. And then next up on the list is a knife I've been after for quite a while. This is the Medford Praetorian tie, which is the largest, thickest version of the Praetorian. There's also a Praetorian G. There is a Praetorian, the G is made with a G10 side on the slab on the side, presentation side here. There's a Praetorian T, which is a thinner version of this one. And then this is the thickest one of all. This is called the Praetorian Tie, TI. And it is exactly the same thickness as the Marauder. The slabs are the same thickness. And the blade is exactly the same thickness. Just a different shape in the knife. This is kind of the classic Medford. This is the one that was, I think, by far Greg's most popular knife. And so I've been after this one for a while. They don't come around very often on the aftermarket. And there's like a year wait list if you want to order one of these custom. So I find the best way to pick one of these up if you don't want to wait for it is to get one at a show. And so I was lucky enough to grab one of these at the USN Gathering G7 in Las Vegas in 2015, just about 2 weeks ago. He had about 3 of them to choose from. I like this one. It's a drop point, which is the style of the blade here. And I wanted a different style than the Tonto because I already have a Tonto here in the Marauder. And so I wanted to get, I was after a drop point Praetorian tie. I've been looking for one now for a couple of months. And luckily he had one at for sale and available at the USN gathering this past month here there in Las Vegas. Another thing that I liked about this is it's quite unique in a finish that I haven't seen Greg do before. So this is called the Vulcan finish here, and it's kind of interesting because you get a lot of different colors coming through that Vulcan finish, as you can see there. Looks really neat and gives it a unique look. And then he did something different that I haven't seen him do before, is he did a post grind on the blade after the Vulcan finish, and it's this nice brushed, you can see kind of the belt finish there on the raw steel. So it gives this a very unique two-tone finish to the blade, and then a pretty wicked sharp edge on there. So quite interesting. Another thing that's fairly unique and hard to come by is a 3V steel. So you can see there, it's got a little 3 next to the logo. That means it's 3V. This one has a little D next to the logo, which means it's D2. And then he also does S30V blades, and if you get an S30V, it'll have a little S next to the logo. And I think there's no question that this 3V is the rarest of any of the Medford, of any model he makes. I mean, he does offer 3V as a steel option if you want to custom order any of his or most of his knives. But I think it's pretty rare to come across one. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen a 3V Medford before, especially one in this crazy thickness and with this very unique combination of finishes here on the blade. So that caught my attention. And then the other thing that I liked was this finish that they did on the handle here. So it looks like what they did is they anodized this kind of a rainbow color. There's some blue here on the end, if you can see it. Get it here in the right light. See there's some blue there, and then it kind of transitions to a bronze, to a copper, and then kind of to a lighter bronze. And then it almost looks like this was pulled across a sanding belt to give it this interesting kind of textured lines you see here. I'll try to get close in as I can. You can see that. It's kind of like the lines they run through the sides there. You see those lines? Very unique. And then kind of a darker finish there in the finger grooves. And then same deal on the back here. Although I would say this looks more like a tumble. So this side looks like it was brought across a sanding belt. And this side, you can see on the finish there, this is a tumble, but a very similar blue going to bronze, copper to bronze along here, and then a kind of a tumble on the pocket clip. And then one of the things that's neat as well is that the edges here are a satin finish, and he carried the satin finish from the handles over to the pocket clip, which is really neat. And then it's kind of a raw finish on this backspacer. The glass breaker / backspacer here has kind of just an interesting, again, kind of a raw belt finish on the backspacer. So very unique. I liked it immediately as soon as I saw it. You'll see there's some blue that you could, when the whole thing was anodized, so the blue stayed inside these little cutouts here, which is really neat. And there's some blue in there. There's a little bit of blue in here. A little bit of color in the finger cutout right there. And it is a really cool and unique, one like I've never seen before, Praetorian tie. For those of you who are familiar with steel, 3V it's an interesting steel. It has it's very, very tough. So this steel is like known for not chipping or being able to be just abused and brutalized, and it's going to hold up really well. Of course, the downside to this is that it'll rust much, much quicker than most other steels used for knives. So they recommend that you keep a little bit of oil on it. I live in Colorado, which is a very low humidity, very dry state, so there's less chance of this rusting, but I do keep a layer of protectant on the blade whenever I put it away. About once a week I put a little bit of layer of oil protectant on there, and I think it'll be good to go. So it opens nice and smooth. Same method I use to open it. One finger on each side, push, and then continue with my thumb, closing it the same way. Put a finger on here, put your finger on there, push the lock bar over, push it with your your finger, and it closes right up. It's got a great sound. I want to stop talking for a second, and I want to show you the difference in sound, the closing sound between these two blades. It's quite striking and interesting at the same time. So we'll start out with, I'm going to let you hear the sound of the closing on the Marauder. So here we go. So you can hear it's kind of a dull thud. And then check out the difference you hear when you close the Praetorian tie. Here we go. Very, very loud, distinctive, metallic clink, which I think sounds awesome. So love this knife. Glad I finally was able to get a hold of Praetorian tie. Glad I was able to get it brand new, direct from Greg at a show. Was able to get him to sign the birth certificate on this with his name and USN G7. Got him to sign the birth certificate on this one, that this was at Blade 2015. So 2 knives got direct from Greg via 2 different shows. So my 2 Medford acquisitions for 2015. Love both of them. I think out of the 2, of course, this one was a real find for me, because first thing, kind of the most important thing I was looking for was I wanted a drop point. I just own so many Tonto style blades, and I really like Tonto. It's my favorite shape, but I just felt like it was kind of time for something a little bit different. So when I went to USN, I was specifically going there looking for a Praetorian tie with a drop point blade. And that's what I found. He had only one with a drop point that he brought to USN, and I was able to grab it, which is so cool. And the fact that it's 3V steel is awesome, because you don't run across that very much. The finish on this is the Vulcan, half brushed raw belt finish there on the swedge, which is really neat. Makes it look so cool. And then a really cool finish on here. A little bit of color, and kind of gives it a raw, mean look. Love it. Awesome Praetorian tie. So happy to add this to my collection. Love both of my Medfords. So just wanted to do a little bit of a review and talk about these knives. So thank you. This is Richard with Rich Made Knives.